Welcome back. We're going to do another scoop today. I know we did this in the last video and the one before that, and we made scoops that look sort of like this. Well, we got a different kind of scoop to do today. This is out. What I want to do is to make a scoop that's sort of like this. Maybe a little bigger one. We're going to do this one here actually. I've been thinking a lot about doing this one because it could be a pretty simple thing. You hollow it, make a shape sort of like this, then go to the bandsaw, cut that shape off, maybe a little belt sanding work to clean up the look of it. And everybody who does that says, now you got to be really careful with the bandsaw because this is a round thing and it's small and this is a dangerous cut. Well, I try to figure out a way to eliminate that dangerous cut. I'm going to cut it out altogether. So we're not going to do that in the classical way. But I am going to cut the piece off while it's still square, because at this point I can go to the bandsaw, lay this square on the table very safely, traced out the shape, kind of get a trace for where the cut's going to be. If I cut this piece off, I have to drill a hole in here in order to be able to do the hollowing. And you know that drill bit's going to wander off. It's not going to stay in there, so I can't do it that way. That way. Here's how I'm going to do it. Well, here's the shape, rough. And here's roughly where the cut's going to be. So first thing I'm going to do is put this in the jaw of the chuck. I'm going to drill a pilot hole. Then I'm going to go to the bandsaw and cut this piece off. This gives me a place then to be able to do my hollowing from without the tool sliding off of the surface. The only other thing I'm going to do that's a little different, I'm going to make sure that on the back side of this there's a flat. So when I lay this down, it won't roll. So I'm going to leave a little bit, just a little tiny flat on the back of that. So we're going to do this scoop this manner. Tool-wise, I'm going to have to drill the hole, so I'm just using a taper shank bit. I have tendency to always rough out using my deep fluted gouge, my bowl gouge, simply because I'm used to it. Most of the hollowing is going to be done with my shallow fluted gouge, as I did in the other videos. But to finish it up inside, I'm going to use a small round nose scraper, just to clean that surface up. I used a hollowing tool in the other one. And for the final part off, I may very well make the cut with my skew chisel. Maybe I'll do it with the gouge, but we'll see when we get there. So let's clear the decks and start the process. Put my tools away. Taper shank bit. I'm going to use a fresh piece of wood, one I haven't written on too much. And what we're going to do is just chuck this up. And I'm going to drill this hole. Hole size is not important. It's just a place where I can get the tool to start, because this is end grain. I'm going to hollow from the center outward. Let's be sure this is somewhat squared. Not too critical, but let's make sure we get it as square as we can. That's good enough. And right now I'm just going to drill that pilot hole to get the chuck key to work. Okay. So the piece is here. I'm going to take a felt marker and I'm going to say I want to go about that deep. It's not critical, is it? I'm using my depth measuring device here. So I'm going to drill to about that point. That gives me the depth of the bowl. Lathe is on at 0 speed. Tailstock is locked, glass is in place, and I'm just going to drill down to that mark to create a hole from which I can do the hollowing eventually. Don't have to have a taper shank drill, but I have it. Okay, drilling's done. Next thing I want to do is go up to the bandsaw and literally cut this corner off, which will go down and intersect this hole. That's going to leave me about a 3-sided object. And so yes, I'll be a little interrupted cut, but that's okay. I could turn this round a little bit beforehand, but remember I wanted this flat so I can go through the bandsaw. So now it's a trip off to the bandsaw. I'll see you up there. Okay, back from the belt sander. I actually went over to a 6x48 belt sander and touched this surface up just a little bit. It was really burned badly from the bandsaw because the blade is pretty well worn. So after this video is over, I guess I have a bandsaw blade to change. I put life center in at the tailstock, purpose of which is just to help me get this lined up a little bit. I will not be using it, but I want to get it as square as I can. It doesn't matter too much because everything has to be turned anyway. So this is only to be sure that I'm relatively square to the hole. And I'm just using that to line it up. That's close enough. And I'm going to remove it so I don't impale myself, as I have in the past. Now, because this is a pretty big piece of wood, I'm perfectly comfortable returning this without tailstock support, especially since I'm going to be working in there anyway eventually. I'm getting this as tight as I can. Oh, it's not going to go anywhere. That's it. So first thing to do is to turn this scoop portion to shape and leave the handle portion right where it is for a while. Speed's back to 0 again. My roughing gouge here in hand. Tell where the scoop is with the sound, can't we? It's almost round. There's a flat here on the bottom, which is right where I want it to be. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit more. This scoop is going to be from about here. Okay, just knocking off the corners down here. So now I need to give this scoop a bit of a shape. So we know it's going to go from about right there. There's the top of the scoop. And I'm really looking at the shadow of the piece against the floor. We have a really dark floor in this room. The nice thing about that, it gives me a good contrast against this light colored wood. So let me finish shaping this down. I think that's about the end of it. Let's check the depth. So it's going to about there. It needs to go just a little bit farther back. Okay, that'll do it. Careful measuring. Yeah, that's about right. Maybe a smidge more. All right. Let's kind of clean this up a little bit. You can send interrupted shapes if you hold the paper nice and tight. So the outside looks pretty good. Let's make a scoop. So I'm going to come around here to the end. And I want to be right on center line and a little bit low. Now this is a standard hollowing job, except I can see where I'm going because the side is missing. It's going to be kind of fun. Get this going a little bit fast. The gouge is positioned about a 45-degree angle, and I'm literally just moving the handle backwards. The blade stays level. Actually, I'm just a little bit low. I'm having to drop the handle to get this to center. But you can see what my wall thickness is going to look like when I get started here. I can see the wall thickness developing. It'd be really nice if you could see down through here. You'd be able to see what I see, which is my tool working inside the vessel. Pretty cool. I'm not going to go any deeper until I get this portion here completed like I like. Thickness is still a little thick. Let's recheck tightness here just for fun. Yeah, that's as tight as it's going to go. I'm back here working on this again. Throughout this video, you're hearing a lot of chattering sound, a lot of loud, vibrating noise. That's because this shallow fluted gouge is hanging over the tool rest far longer than it's designed to do. So as a result, it's this metal vibrating that you're hearing. High-pitched sounds, vibrating tools. Low-pitched sounds, vibrating wood. We're hearing vibrating tools. As you can see, my shape is coming along okay. We've got a lot of hollowing down in here yet to do. I'm going to take more off with this gouge, and then I'm going to change to my small round-nosed scraper. Just like in the other vessel, hand has to stay on this side of the tool rest for sure. So I'm down here. I've got about another 3/8 of an inch depth-wise to go. Now the round nose scraper I'm using is very small. I've done two things to modify it. Number one, I've knocked the back shoulder off so that it'll fit into round areas without the heel dragging. And I put a very slight negative rake on the top of it. So I'm going to clean up from the top and then go on down farther. Pretty clean. I can do a little bit more at the bottom, but just a little bit, not much. Now I can do some more shaping here. As you can see, I need a little bit more. The wall center here, it's a little thick out on the end. Probably need to take just a little bit more off out here. Very carefully. That was really smooth. I'm okay with that. And this edge will all get cleaned up a little bit here. So let's go on and work on the shaft. Before I go on, I've still got some mass here. I can soften up these edges a lot with a little bit of 80 grit, depending on how much you want to sand. And get these corners rounded off. It comes off a little sharp when it comes off the sander, but I want this rounded over. So I'm going to pull this back in a little bit more. Break this edge. And I'm using some 80 grit here just to blend these edges in. And you can sand as much as you want to. And there's a lot of hand sanding here to make this look really nice. I want to round these corners here, for instance. One could take a rasp if you wanted to, I suppose. And I'm not going to do much more, but you get the idea of what we have to do, a little touch up. It's easy to do when it's on the lathe because I've got something holding it for me. To sand the inside, we went back to the hemostats and a piece of sandpaper. Straight in here is a good way to clean that up. You gotta be careful. I like sanding with 80 grit with the grain like this. Okay, so now we'll work on the shaft. You may have seen it wobbling a little bit when we were hollowing. It may have shifted a little bit in the chuck. Even though I've checked the tightness, it still seems it may have shifted. Doesn't matter very much because I'm going to make this handle perfectly in line with the scoop. So let's just take the deep fluted gouge just to get rid of some. Solid fluted gouge to finish it up. Backside up a little bit. Little 180. Now you can decorate if you wanted to. All we have to do now is to finish this. That would mean to cart this off. We're going to have to hold it there. Creating some clearance. And I think I'll break that corner a little bit before I go too far. I'll finish this off with my skew chisel. I'm going to have to hold it over the top, so you may not be able to see the cuts. But I've got to do that. This is a series of V-cuts, that's all it is. My thumb is helping. And there we go. A little cleanup on the end to do, that'll be sanded. Well, actually, I can actually use my skew chisel to part away some of that rough. And polish over the end. So, a little work yet to do in terms of getting the shape exactly the way I want. I want to break these corners down some more. I want to soften this edge up here. And that'll take just a few minutes more work. But anyway, there's something for sugar, flour, whatever. But it's basically another standard scoop done in a traditional way, but with a slight modification. I think it's a good idea to make this cut on the bandsaw from square stock before you do the hollowing. Get that drill hole in here first, because you'll never be able to hollow into something that's at an angle. So, last of the scoops. There's a lot of other kitchen ornaments and activities and tools we could be making, but I think we'll stop. You know how to make a spatula or a spurtle, but we'll stop at this point and we'll go into a whole new subject in the next video. Again, thanks for watching. We'll enjoy you subscribing and definitely look forward to your comments and suggestions. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. We'll see you soon.